everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I love hanging out with you. Carrie is one of my dear friends. She's so inspiring. She's so down to earth and such a badass. So we're going to talk today about her journey, and specifically her journey of building one of the most, this is a fact, this is not me being nice, one of the most successful memberships. She has consistently had over 5,000 people, can you believe, in her FEA. How many of you, type a 1 in the chat if you know Carrie or if you know the Female Entrepreneur Association, what she's built? Jen knows, Ashley knows, Amanda knows, Tamara knows.
Woo.
So cool. Yeah. So Carrie, let's talk about you, and then let's see if we can make this a little bit of like a deep dive in what the heck does it take to build a successful membership. So before we go into that, just tell us a little bit about the journey. You've been on the podcast before. Some people may have heard, some people may have not. So just a little bit of the journey of like how you even came up with the idea to start this membership, how you arrived at that.
Well, I think I'd always wanted to start membership. I won't go digging around, but it just reminded me because I think I've got some like old designs I did years ago of like building a membership. I really like the idea of being able to bring together the community in like a deeper way and have a space for people to come together to learn more. And you know, for me, obviously FEA is about helping women to build businesses, so it's like having, because I had like email subscribers, which is great, but it's like, how do we take this to another level and have this space for us on an ongoing basis? And so I thought a membership felt like a really good idea. Also, a membership really appealed to me because I just couldn't summon up the courage to create a course. Like I found it so overwhelming to be like, what do I create? And I thought, a membership, I can just do month 1 and then figure out the rest after. And so it felt doable. It felt more doable. And I liked also the idea of, so a membership, you're building like, that's your, in a sense, your community of like super fans. So I know that my members are the people that are most likely to, if I bring out a book, they're going to want the book. If I create something else, they're going to want that thing. Like we have a stationery line, so I know that the members like absolutely love the things that we produce from the stationery shop. So like the community, the membership, it is like it's a core base of people who love the brand, love the business. So I really like that aspect. And then also the recurring revenue model is just amazing. Like when I had my first child, Casey, back in 2018, and I literally was just, I just did not have any inspiration or energy for work. I think like at 8 months, I was like really trying to like get back into it. And if I'm being honest, I still wasn't back in it. And then since then I've had Marley, my daughter. And if it wasn't for a membership site, I'm not sure what I would have what the revenue would have been like over the past few years, because like it's just been operating a lot without me being involved. Like I'm not really involved in like the membership stuff anymore. So I'm really grateful for recurring revenue.
It's so sparkly and awesome. First of all, what you just laid out about how you do have this core of super fans, which is just where it is all at, right? It is all about creating engagement, deep engagement. And I always like to say like intimacy is currency, right? So you've created something where it's not, your focus hasn't been on even though you have a very strong social media following, it's not been about how do I get those big vanity metrics. It's how can I create a really engaged, tight community?
Yeah.
And from that little nucleus, it's small and mighty. It has, it's been fierce. It's built an empire for you. And just so that we are all on the same page, we're talking about Carrie's membership. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in reoccurring revenue a month. We're talking about millions of dollars a year. And she's not Kim Kardashian. She's not famous, right? She's not somebody who people would recognize if she was eating lunch, right? Out at whatever cafe or cute cafe in her European town. But she found a small corner of the world and she brought women together around an idea that she felt was something close to all of their hearts, and she provided value. And she also, like you said, you didn't show up as like, here I am, the expert ready to teach you deep dive curriculum. It was more like, what would I do to hold space? It's just incredible. So I want to go back to where it started, because that's where everybody here is generally at.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to even fathom it. It seems overwhelming to get to 5,000 people paying, let's say, roughly $100 a month. That seems like, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
But you started somewhere. So where did you start? The first month when you put it out there, what was the experience like of launching it? How did you do that? And what was the initial response from the women who were interested?
So I launched it the day before Thanksgiving, and I didn't realize it was Thanksgiving the next day because I'm in the UK. And most of my audience are from the US. So like I literally in 2013, I was like, I'm launching a membership site this year. And it got to the end of the year and I was like, I haven't done it. Like I haven't created it. And I was like, I have to do this, otherwise I'll be so angry with myself. And so I quickly tried to put something together. And so I just kind of was trying to get it out there. And so I didn't have some grand launch plan. I think I did a bit of like a pre-launch of getting people excited, letting them know something was coming, but it was minimal. I mean, I sent like a few emails, probably posted out a little few bit of on social media. And then I literally sent an email out to my email list. And I had 18,000 people on my email list at the time, which I can talk more about because I spent the first few years of FEA really building up my audience. And so I sent out some emails. I then started to run a few Facebook ads. And I think within the first month or couple of months, I had like a few hundred members. And I think it took me like 4 or 5 months to get to like 400-ish members. And I remember thinking like, how am I going to get to my first 1,000? And it was really like email, social media, and Facebook ads. Like those were the three things I focused on to get members on board. And I mean, like back then, I was doing all the things. I didn't have really anyone working for me. I didn't even have anyone helping me with customer support. So I was like creating the content. I was collaborating with any experts I was bringing in. I was marketing it. I was replying to the emails. I was like putting everything together myself. It wasn't until we hit 1,000 members that I hired somebody to like really help me with like the customer support side of things. So it was a bit crazy.
That's a beast. That's a beast. So
but
people are I mean, this is just so awesome that you had the courage to do that, right? Step into the unknown without a staff around you. You had to create the content, you had to create an offer, you had to figure out, on the spot while you were building it, what the heck is this membership going to look like? So I want to get into that. But before we do, let's talk about this 18,000 person email list, because that's actually, it's a significant list, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to build that, first of all?
So I'd started FEA in the February 2011. We just celebrated our 10th birthday, which is crazy. But so when I got started, I knew I needed to build up my audience, and I knew I needed an email list of people who really liked what I did. So initially I didn't have a freebie because the idea of creating a freebie just freaked me out. I didn't know what to create. And so I literally just put on the website, I think it was like around like join this project, like sign up. And because people want to, we all want to be part of something that means something. So I was like, how can I make this out there? Like, let's stand together on this. Let's come together. So it was kind of that thing. So it was just sign up to be part of this thing. There wasn't any freebie in it. And
I love that though. That makes a lot of sense to me. I like it. It feels more genuine and organic.
Yeah.
Come be a part of this. Just so everybody, just as a tangent, but I think an important tangent, our biggest list builder is when I do free experiences, like a 5-day challenge. Come join me for this.
Yeah.
That builds probably 100,000 people to our list a year just from that. So I hear you. So, okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Then so I started to send out these little, I think maybe monthly at first, and then weekly emails where I do like a tip, an inspirational quote, and then I And then I really realized the power of social media at the time, in particular Facebook. And I started to like figure, if I thought to myself, if I can become amazing at this social media platform, then it'll really help me to drive more traffic, get more email subscribers, and create more success. I knew that if I was going to introduce an offer, I had to have people who were connected and engaged and like listening to me. And so there, and then I discovered Facebook ads and realized how powerful they were. And I've always really been interested in ads because it's just a faster way to get in front of people. And in my first business, which was not remotely the same, it was phone unlocking, but I started at using Google AdWords, and like right from day one, we were profitable because I spent $30 and made however much, but like I made more than I spent. And I was like, this is day one, this is great. And so when I started playing around with Facebook, I realized that it was just a really powerful way to get in front of my audience. And I realized it was a great way for me to build my social media presence and like get people interested and involved and seeing what I was doing. And like over the years, I've tried like different things. Like eventually I did create a freebie, but I mean, that took me, I think my first freebie was really 2013. But then I also, when I started hosting webinars, I started doing that. And at first I did like collaborations. So where I would host and someone else would teach, because I just wasn't ready to be the
That's
teacher.
so
Like,
smart though. It's brilliant.
so I
That's so
remember
smart.
doing my first one, and I was so terrified, and like drank a glass of wine and had another glass of wine next to me. I was so terrified. And I realized that was a great way to build my email list. And I was just focused on like figuring out how I could add value, but also thinking of different things to do. So one thing I realized was that I loved reading like magazines, and like I loved personal development, but I felt like there was a real gap of a magazine for women that was like personal development, business development, something really inspirational. And so I thought, I'll just create a magazine. And so I put this magazine together like
No big deal.
myself.
Just make the whole magazine. Yeah.
I found someone to design it, and then I put together the whole magazine. They were like 70 pages, and we just did it monthly. I say we, it was like me, myself, and I, and Natalie who designed it. And I went after this, I had this wish list of people to go after, like best-selling authors, like really well-known entrepreneurs. And even though at the time, like FEA wasn't anything, I found that people were willing to say yes more easily than I thought they would. And what it did is it helped to raise the authority and the credibility of FEA, because people then saw me interviewing these really big name people and then associated FEA with these big name people. So I was always looking at like, how do I raise my profile? How do I raise the profile of FEA? How do I do something that other people aren't doing? How do I like blaze my own path here with this? And I think that's really important when you're looking at like building an audience, like build your audience of people who, you're doing you. And I think, doing crazy things like, a magazine or whatever idea it is, I think it's important to follow those little niggles, because that's when you get like a lot of people paying attention and interested, and you start to like really stand out. And then so I was just largely doing that and just adding value. I think for me, one of the biggest things when I started FEA was realizing that I was here to serve. I was here to be of service. And I knew that if I could just forget about what was in it for me and just focus on what was in it for the people I wanted to show up and serve, and I could just give and like learn and really get into giving, I knew I'd figure out how to eventually receive and how to make it profitable and successful. And I remember at the beginning, people being like, what are you doing? You are so, you don't have you're not financially savvy, and like thinking it was ridiculous that I was doing all this stuff and putting all this out there and like making all this effort, and I wasn't charging anything. But I was playing the long game, and the long game was build these amazing relationships, create visibility, build this audience, and get people to understand like what it is that I'm doing, what I'm creating, get them excited about it. And I knew if I could do that, I would be able to figure out how to make it really successful. So the first 2 years were me doing that, but I think it took really 2 years because I was also really afraid to put myself out there. So I don't think it needs to take that long. It just did for me, because I was getting in my own way so much. the story of my life, probably the story of everyone's life.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it makes a lot of sense. And what it allowed you to do also is really get to know this woman who you serve and what she's excited about, what she's struggling with, and all
Mhm.
of that. So that when you went to create this membership, you had this idea of like, oh, I think this is what she needs because I've been talking to her on
Yeah.
social media. I've been talking to her in the DMs. And I love what you said about how you would bring in other people to collaborate with because we make it harder than it needs to be. You know, it's like, oh, I have to teach a course, so I have to create curriculum and video modules. And I mean, that works for some people. That doesn't work for me, right? And then in a membership, it's like, oh my God, this is a place where I could just facilitate great conversations. Like I don't have to like literally write out like 3 or 4 scripts a week and then make sure I have a step by I could create something that's really powerful just by being resourceful. And I
Mhm.
think people don't realize how often other people are just so willing to be like, sure, I'll share. I'll come in and share. And I think also it's not even about how famous the person is. It could just be that this person is really great at speaking on a topic. I mean, we just had this woman, Allison Bird, speak to my Arrive members, and that it's a membership that I have, which we're actually about to convert into an alumni membership. That's a little PS. It's this little secret announcement, which it's going to soon just be for Made to Do This alumni, and we have a whole rebrand. But Allison's not someone who's necessarily famous, but she's dynamic and she's so good at what she talks about that it adds value. And I don't have to be there teaching what she's teaching. I can just hold space for her.
Yeah.
But that takes courage to reach out to those people. And like you said, it takes courage and guts to get out of your own way. So how did you do that? How did you do that?
Mostly by putting it off till it just became so unbearable to put it off any longer that I just had
Right.
to face my fears and do it. um, but I think for me, like doing a lot of the mindset work over the years has just been so important. And just, I do all sorts of things like looking at the bigger picture of life. And sometimes I even just have this visualization where I literally imagine being in space. Like, this is weird, but like the planet hovering in blackness and realizing that I zoom out of life because we get so caught up in like the day to day, and we see these things happening daily that we think are significant, but really they're not significant. And I zoom out of life so that I can recognize that I am here on this planet as a human being, and it doesn't bloody matter if I mess up, if this fails, if it doesn't work out, if that person says no, if I charge the wrong price, if no one buys, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I actually just gave it a shot. And so when I like doing things like zooming out and that kind of thing, just really pushes me over the edge and helps remind me of like what I'm here for, and like and then also like journaling, visualization. I'm really into that, and meditating. And I really think that success is mostly, I think the inner work is probably the most critical piece when you're trying to create whatever your definition of success is. Um, so yeah, um,
That's really powerful, that image of just zooming out and seeing the earth. I took my kids to the Natural History Museum in New York City 2 Octobers ago, and we're like sitting in the planetarium and it's beautiful and one of my daughters needs to pee and I'm trying to enjoy it, and there was like a 2-minute period where I actually was able to like just sit in the wonder of it. And I'm just like, oh my God, there's this moment where they show you the building of the science museum. Then they zoom out, you see New York City, then you see New York, then you see the North American continent, then you see all the continents, then you see the planet, then you see the galaxies, and you're just literally like freaked the F out. You're like, I don't matter at all. Like, oh my God, right? You just like get it. I just remember it was so powerful that day because they start with where you are and then boom. And it really is such a good thing to remember.
mhm,
Like, why am I making this so dramatic? Like,
yeah,
why am I making this such a big deal? Let me just see. I was talking to Jen Sincero yesterday. I had her back on the podcast and she wrote You Are a Badass and all those books. She's like, I'm at a point where I'm like, let me just make it not drama. Let me just see what I can get away with. Let's just see what happens. Like, why is this such a big deal? Let's let the drama go. So I
Yeah.
love that. So
Yeah.
getting back to sort of the nitty gritty of it, I first just want to say to everyone who's listening who can quickly feel overwhelmed, I want to tell you two pieces of data, just for data. Number one, my very first launch, I did not have an email list, and I launched a program. It was $9.97. It was for songwriters, and I made 147 grand. Okay, that's just some data, just to know that that's a thing. And then the other thing to know is that by and large, what we find out, Carrie, which is really interesting to know, is that my audience is now pretty hefty, right? We have like multiple hundreds of thousands of people on an email list. I have a really big podcast following. But would you believe that by and large, the people who come to our 5-day challenges and people who come into Made to Do This, by and large, they don't know me before that? Like it's crazy. It's like cold traffic. How is it for you at this point? How many of your members from FEA are coming off of your email list, and how many of your people are coming out of just the world?
Um, well, we're changing some stuff up at the moment to do some evergreen things. Actually, some of the evergreen ads I'm running at the moment, the cold traffic's performing better. Um, yeah, I mean, when we're doing launches, it's the ads that do a lot of the heavy lifting for and getting out there in front of a cold audience. Like, I don't know where you stand on ads, Kathy, but like for me, especially with my previous experience with Google AdWords, for me, ads are a secret weapon in the sense of when I realized the potential where ads could take my business and the potential of ads, it was just a game changer because every single one of us here can learn how to leverage ads to really build our businesses. And we don't have to be waiting for ages to build, like, if you want to build an email list of 1,000 people, like, you could literally do that this month. I could show you how to do it, and it doesn't have to cost you a load of money. Like, if you've not got an offer in place and all that, it might be maybe a little bit of a silly thing to do. I don't know, but ads are so insanely powerful. I remember being at a mastermind a few years ago, and I was talking to someone who had a membership, and she had like 17,000 members. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she was spending $1 million a month on ads. And I was like, what? That's insane. And then I was like, wait, no, it's not insane. What if I could spend $1 million a month on ads? Where would I be? Where would my business be at? Like, her business was making like in excess of 20 million, because she had some other things, in excess of 20 million a year. So to spend 12 million on ads, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So it was, and then I was in another mastermind call earlier on this year, and the guy on that, he'd scaled his membership last year from around, like, I don't know, he had like maybe 5 to 10,000 members, and scaled it last year to over 30,000 members, all through ads on an evergreen ad campaign, like just ads. And then he said this year it was likely that he'd start to hit $1 million ad spend a month on Facebook, but his ad spend over the past year had crept up, so he was spending a few 100,000. I know that sounds insane probably to all of us here, because it also sounds
No,
insane
it's
to
not
me,
insane.
but it just makes me think, like, if, to me, my takeaway is, if you figured out how to do this, I can figure out how to do this. So I'm going to figure it out, because if I can scale and get to that level, I want to be able to get to that level. And so ads, yeah, are,
Powerful.
yeah, it's so
I just want to say
powerful.
two things to everyone who's listening. Number one, we have one of the best Facebook ad people there is coming into this program, Rick Mulready. I'm sure you know Rick, Carrie.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. He's literally like the person. Like, he's the person who helped Amy Porterfield when she was getting things. I mean, they're very good friends. He's incredible. He's coming in to teach you guys how to get your ads off the ground. So who's excited about that? He's the best. Very generous human being. So that's number one. But number two, one thing I really want you guys to get is part of what Carrie is not saying about herself, but I can tell you about her. And part of what I think makes she and I successful is that you can have ads running, or you can have an email list, or you can have yip-de-doo, fill in the blank, but our conversion numbers are super high and not normal. And that has to do with the kind of way you show up with people, the intimacy. We are all so saturated with ads, and we're so saturated with emails that for a lot of people, they just think, well, I'll spend more and more because the conversion rate is so tiny that I need a bigger list, or I need to spend more in order to convert this tiny amount. But Carrie, as you can just feel, just being with her, she's such a genuine person. She creates connection right away, immediately. It's instant. And so she and I mean, it's not like I've ever talked to you about this and looked at your numbers, but I just know you well enough and I know your business well enough to kind of guess. But like typical conversion rates are like 2 to 3%. Like that's great. Like you're doing fantastic. Whereas for us, if I do some kind of a launch or I do some kind of a challenge, we're looking at like it could be 8%, it could be 11%, because there's a warmth, there's an engagement, there's an intimacy, there's something that doesn't feel like everything else. And so we're going to keep talking about that, because that's what you really want to keep bringing back and bringing into what you're doing. And so on that point, Carrie, I think one of the reasons your membership is so uber successful is because you are so aware of that. And so the community is focused on what the community really needs, where people are feeling that support, that accountability, the implementation stuff. Can you talk to us about those components of what you built into your membership? Because when I first heard you tell me what was in your membership and how much you poured into these women, I was not surprised that it was successful because of what you focused on and because of what you decided not to focus on. So tell us what you do that really keeps it feeling like the glue for all of them.
Well, at the beginning, I didn't have all these things, but at the beginning, it wasn't as big as it is now. And I think that as things get bigger, like what you said, people want that connection. People want to be seen and be heard. And it's really interesting because we have this channel on Slack as a team. And I'm going to have a look now quickly, because it's called Success Stories, where the team can share like things coming in. And so Scarlett on our team just shared this one from a member that came in. It said, I know that you have over 5,000 members to speak to, but you honestly make me feel that there's no one else there. I have all of your attention. Thank you. And
there it is.
that is where the magic is. Like when you can make somebody feel that special. And I feel like more than anything, it is an intention. So because when I wrote my book, for example, my intention was for people to read it and to feel really connected with me and like we were friends. Like I wanted to be the best friend. I remember years ago someone asking me the question, like, who do you want to be to your audience? And he was like, I'm Uncle Peter. So random. But I was like, who do I want to be? And I was like, I don't want to be the expert. I don't want to be that kind of like mother figure. I want to just be the best friend by your side, like shoulder to shoulder. We're in this together. I'm here, like by your side. So when I wrote my book, it was with that energy. And I cannot tell you how many people read my book and say, I feel like you're my best friend. And so it's infusing that energy into everything. And once you're clear on what that energy is for you and who you want to be to your audience and that relationship that you want to have, and then how does that look? How do you speak to a best friend? You speak to a best friend differently to how you speak to a parent, or how you would speak as I don't know, an expert or something. It would be a different energy. And so I think that, and pouring that into whatever you're doing really, it's just the relationship that you then build is so much more intentional. So then with the features, we have things like virtual meetups, which is where people just get on a Zoom call and then we get into breakout sessions of like, I don't know, 4 to 5 people, and everyone gets to chat, and there's a bit of an agenda as to like they can do like they can pitch and like get people's feedback and that kind of thing. And that's really powerful because it's real. It's not just some online thing that they're doing in an isolated way. They are part of something with real relationships, with real people that are on the same journey that they're on. And so when you can facilitate that and like you're holding the space for people to come together, it then is really powerful. And we have like accountability partner pairings again, so that you can have a connection with one other person. And don't get me wrong, there are times when people pair together and they don't get on, it's awkward, but a lot of the time they pair and they hit it off, and then that changes everything. Some people, like, we do these Christmas parties in the UK, and what I remember once, someone flying over, I can't remember, we've had multiple people, someone came from Australia once, someone came all the way from San Francisco, she stayed in the UK for 2 nights just to come to the Christmas party, and I was like, oh my gosh. But when I was asking, why are you coming, they're coming to meet their accountability partners, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I think when you have a membership and you can facilitate that those relationships happening within the community, that's so powerful. Like we've just started doing co-working calls. So again, getting together and like working through something together, you feel like you're part of something. And with a membership, that's the key, is you want people to feel like they are a part of something. It's not, they can't just disappear into it. Like,
Yes.
well, people do, you're always going to have that, but you need to try and really engage people to create connections, to collaborate, to build friendships. That's when people will stay for a really, really long time. And like, I'll show up and do like live Q&As and live sessions, but really I think the magic is, one, well, obviously keeping the relationship with me is really powerful, but also keep getting that relationship between the members themselves is really powerful.
So when you first started, because people are asking this, 2 questions that go together. What did you charge when you first started, and what were the features? Like, what did the membership include at that point?
So it was $25 a month, and I did a bundle of business love every month. And my little bundle for month 1 was Success Month. And Success Month included a workbook on how to basically condition yourself for success, a guide, a PDF guide, an affirmations printable, a little monthly tracker, I think, where you could like track your month, and a guided visualization. So that was my little bundle. And then I did a live Q&A session, and that was it. It was the little bundle, and it was then the Q&A. And then as time's gone on, we've added in more. And the Facebook group, so the community.
And as time went on, now you have an accountability situation. There's co-working calls. You're doing same amount of Q&As or more?
I do a goal setting session every month, and then the live coaching call, which is with the expert that we've worked with that month. And if that's me, then it's with me, and if it's not, it's with me and the expert, where people get to be in the hot seat and come on the Zoom call and ask their question. But that stuff now has been really powerful. Well, it is actually really powerful because it just facilitates the relationships between the members.
Yeah. And now your membership is it 80, around 79? What is it now a month?
Last year it was 47.
Oh, it's still 47?
Yeah.
Okay. But guys, you can get out your calculator. She has over 5,000 people in this membership, and it's just been thriving. In terms of continuing, right? Part of a membership is the idea that it's month to month. So does that create for you a sense of scarcity that you have to then like re-up every month? Do you have it where people can buy like 6 months at a time? Do you launch at the beginning of every new month? How are you keeping it fluid?
So just to share, when I started, I had it open all the time. And I think it's a really good thing to do initially, because when you have it open all the time, you have to figure out what's really landing, like what's really converting. And whereas if you started with like an open and closed model, you might do your launch and get like 5 people in and be like, oh, I've just closed it. Now what am I supposed to do? And then you don't know what really worked and what didn't work, because you didn't have enough people coming, going through. Yep. So I think at the beginning, I had mine open for the first year, and I was just testing and seeing like what's working, what's not. And then once we got to 1,000 members, I switched to a closed model. So basically I did 3 launches, I think that year. So it was where I did like a 3-part video series or a free challenge or something, like a webinar, something. And then it opened for like 7 days. And it was amazing because when I did that first launch, I had 1,200 people join in 7 days. And it had taken me over a year to get my first 1,000. And I was like, wow, this really works. But it worked because I was at the right point for it to work, because I had that knowledge and I had an audience, and I'd had the membership, and then I closed it down so people knew, wait, she's got this membership and I can't get in anymore. So then they joined the wait list, and then it kind of built anticipation for the launch. And I did that for a long time. And then I found that as it grew, we plateaued. Like, it was impossible unless we could drastically scale the launches. We couldn't scale the membership because when you obviously, as you grow, then you're losing more members a month, because you're always going to have some level of attrition.
Yep.
And so then now this year we're really going to be focused on like evergreen, so having it open all the time. And we might do a couple of like launches where we might do special bonuses to just kind of create a bit more hype around it. But we will do the evergreen. I can't remember what your question was anymore.
No, that was great. We were talking about, how did you keep it fluid, and you kind of walked us through the different ways that you were opening cart, closing cart. So if somebody is starting, they might have this thought of like, why should I start this? I think people think this thought of, nobody's going to pay for this. They could get this for free, or there's already people doing this. What's your response? Because I'm sure there's people in your membership who want to start memberships that are similar. What do you say to people when they think those things?
I feel like if you just like take a step back and stop looking at it from your own perspective and look at yourself as like, why did you join memberships? Like, maybe you're not part of one, but like, let's say like Gabrielle Bernstein, for example, she's got like multiple New York Times bestselling books. So she's got like a lot of people who love her books. She has a membership, and people want to be part of her membership because they want to be part of her space. They want to have a more intimate experience with Gabrielle Bernstein, and they want the behind the scenes. They want the extra goodies. They want that from her, and they're willing to pay to be part of Gabby's inner circle. And so I feel like when you realize, like, is there anyone that you can think of whose inner circle you would want to be part of, like a space that you want to be part of, and then think of it from yourself, like perspective, in the sense of people who, when you're building your business and you're putting yourself out there, people will like resonate with you, and they'll love what you're about, and they'll connect with you, and they'll want more from you because they connect with you and they resonate with you in the same way that you want maybe more, you want to join someone else's membership because you connect and resonate with them. I just think sometimes we don't put the same value on ourselves that we put on other people, and so we don't recognize it. I'm the same. Like, why would anyone? I mean, I'm still like this to this day. I mean, like Kathy, like sometimes I feel like she wants to smack me around, over the head, to be like, bloody hell, like stop it. But yeah, I think, I remember Jada Selner once said in a masterclass she did for us, she said, there's no such thing as a unique message, only unique messengers. And we're all the unique messengers. And that's what makes us special. And that's what makes whatever we create special. And that's why people want to join it. And then we have to leverage that and tap into that. And it just comes back down to, Kathy, what you were saying around like, really creating that authentic connection, that real intimate connection with people, which is, it takes guts to do that, because you have to put yourself out there, and that is a bit terrifying, really.
It is terrifying. And for anybody who's starting out and is like, well, I'm not Gabby Bernstein and I don't have a New York Times bestseller. So what do you think you have that she can't give, which is more intimacy, right? Like if she creates a membership, most likely it's going to be like digital downloads of her. And if she does show up, you're probably going to be in a group of like 12,000 people. Versus if you're holding space for people and you're starting out with 29 women or 48 or 104 or even 5,000, it's different, right? So there's always an advantage, no matter which side of the coin, depending on the person who you're feeding. There's a nourishing piece. So don't dismiss that. Yeah. I remember early on, like I think about it now, how when I was just starting out, people got so much more of me. Like I was able to reply to every email. I was able to reply to every DM. And people appreciated that. Even if I wasn't at the time as famous as whatever, they need a friend. So often what people need most in the world is someone who really cares enough to listen and make space more than they need this perfect answer from somebody. And so if you're able to provide that, that is really like medicine.
Yeah.
So what I want to make sure that we do here is take questions from you beautiful souls who are sitting here. Since we have like 18 minutes, put in your questions in the chat and I will ask Carrie some of your questions as well. But Carrie, before I start getting these questions in, I guess I want to ask you, what is one thing you learned not to do with a membership? What does not work? So that you could give some advice to people before they kind of step in the landmine.
Well, I will say, like, now a lot of people look at what I've created and think that they have to have this really big membership with loads of content to be able to get going with it. And I actually think that that's really more of a curse, in the sense of, we have so much content now because it's been going for 7 years, and people get overwhelmed, and like we have to backtrack and like work really hard to figure out how do we reduce the overwhelm, and like that is our biggest challenge. So I think with a membership, like, I think it's giving yourself permission to be able to keep it simple. And even if you can just address one simple thing, like, let's say for example you are a photographer and you have a photography membership to help people to build their photography businesses. Even if, for example, you just teach them one thing every month, like one way to get a new client, like one simple way to get a new client, and the goal of that membership is just like, I'm here to help you get one new client a month. I'm sure someone told me this in a story once, but like, then that is so powerful. So it doesn't have to be like all these things. It can just be like, what's this one transformation? And I almost think like, if I was going to start over, I'd probably do it from that perspective of like, not this huge massive thing with all this stuff, but like, what's the one transformation I'm going to get you every month? And that's all we're here for. And that's all we're focused on. And I would keep it that simple, because one, I think that converts better because people then know very clearly what the offer is. And it's more doable as well. Like, it doesn't have to be like you figuring out all the, like, there's millions of things. So yeah.
God, guys, doesn't that feel so good to hear that? It feels so good to hear that. And it's so true. And I have to bring myself back to that all the time as well. And as students in this class and as teachers of your own, which we're all teachers and students in different areas of our life, it's really important to get that. I remember hearing Greg Smith from Thinkific. He's the CEO of Thinkific, and he said the number one reason that programs will fail is because they're too much. The students are overwhelmed. So that's really, really powerful. And just as like another little behind the scenes thing, one thing I learned that didn't work, well, one thing I wanted to improve upon with our membership is we created this membership called Arrive, about like arrive at your next level, arrive home to yourself, all these things, and also sort of arrive in my platform wherever you're at, whether you just finished Made to Do This, whether you're new. And I realized that was overwhelming. And I decided I want to make something just for our alumni so that it's very crystal clear, like what we're working on every single month. And we're all starting in the same place. And so we have definitely like a few hundred people who are not alumni. And I looked at it and I was like, it's okay. It's not going to be, for me, it's the longer game. It's not about losing revenue. It's about making something that really, really works. And so we're about to transition that. So you'll all be hearing about that. And that's not even necessarily something for you guys to think about right now, but that's just something I've learned in my membership. Okay. So here's some questions. I'm just reading through them to figure out what would be the best use of our time. So Tammy said, is it helpful to do a free challenge leading into a membership launch? You did mention webinars and then you also said challenges. Which one do you prefer?
I mean, I've done all of them. I think they're all really powerful. And I think it's really about, what do you love? Like, what feels good for you, and go with that one, because your energy will be better, whether that is a webinar that's better, more polished, or a freestyle chat, a video series pre-recorded.
Okay.
I honestly don't, I've never seen a difference between like the success outcome.
And just so you guys all know, we will be spending time talking about challenges and how to do challenges, because that's what I love doing. So I'll be teaching you guys that. As far as Lisa said, how do you come up with pricing if you don't even have members yet? Like, how did you come up with a price?
I remember this being like one of the hardest things. But in the end, I just went with what in my gut felt like a good price. And I realized, I feel like it's easier to increase the price. It's not easy to decrease the price. And so also pricing is a powerful strategic marketing tool from the sense of when you have a membership and you go from $25 to $30 a month, you've locked those members in at $25 a month. Therefore, if they leave, they know they can't get back in at $25. Therefore, there's an incentive to want to stay or to really think hard before they leave. So locking people in at the rate they come on at is powerful. And also when I did it, and when I did it, said it's $25 and this is the last chance this is the last time you can join for $25. Like people like, oh right, okay, I'm going to actually try this, because sometimes you teeter on the edge of like, should I join, should I not join, will it be worth it, won't it be worth it? And sometimes just being like, look, this pricing is going away and we're increasing it is enough to like then get people to actually try it out. So I know it can feel overwhelming to figure out the price, but just literally, if you have like a gut instinct of like, okay, this feels like a good starting point. And like a mentor of mine once said that like $97 a month is really the cutoff for a front end membership. Like mine's a front end, it's not off the back of a program. Like Kathy, if you're switching your membership out, it'll be then a back end a membership offering, which you can often have like much higher price point for. But front end memberships typically do really well between like, I don't know, like a lower price up to $97. That being said, I have seen really successful ones that are like $297 a month. But at that point, it's like, then what are you doing that people will stay on for?
Right.
So yeah,
Good. This is also good. Megan, this is a good question because it's kind of the story you tell. She said, what wording have you figured out works to draw people in? So when you're posting an ad or when you're talking on a challenge or a webinar, what are you saying? What's the guts of what you're kind of saying to welcome people to make the decision to join the membership?
Well, if for example, like I'm doing like a workshop um and then I get to the end of the workshop, I get everyone to close their eyes and do a visualization, because I think one of the most important things as well is that like you want people to dream with you. You want to get people dreaming and thinking of what's possible and getting into that space within themselves. And then often, like we all know, when you're on a workshop and you're inspired and you're fired up, if you don't do anything with that inspiration then wears off. Like the next day you might still have a little bit of an inspiration, but then maybe the next week you've forgotten what they've said, the inspiration has worn off, and you're back to your old habits of like making bad decisions and self-sabotaging and all that stuff. And whereas like if you're part of a program that will help you to stay like inspired, will help you to stay on track, like you'll get like an accountability partner, and like which is proven, like 95% of people who have an accountability partner are more successful than those who don't. So just like I make the link by basically like there are three options. Like you can do nothing, and then what's going to change? You can actually, I don't know what my three options are. I don't know what the third one is. Or you can do something, and then like you can like become part of it. And I think it's just like just showing what the options are, and like neither of them are wrong. It's just different paths, and it's just trying to like make that clear, like what the paths are, and like how the path that I can help you with, like how that actually can help you. And I think for me as well, it's just sharing stories about how you can help. And if you don't have any clients in terms of like success stories from clients, share your own stories, like your own stories of like how what you're going to be sharing has transformed your own life. And like how it can transform lives and how it can make a difference. But with anything that you're selling the dream, you're selling the transformation. And I will also add that you have to keep selling that once people become a member. So like once they become a member, for example, that video on that thank you page, you want to be selling that dream to them, even though they're a member, because we want people to remind them like what journey we're going on here. Because the more they buy into that dream, the more action they're going to take, the more results they're going to get, the more amazing it's going to be, the more impact you're going to have on their lives, but the more they're going to want to stay part of the journey with you. So yeah, I think just really stories, selling the dream.
I love it. I love it. What do you pay people who come and speak to your class, to your membership rather?
We don't. We've never paid anyone who's come and done a session.
Same here. And I think that I wanted to ask you that so that people get that there's a world of people who love to speak and get that exposure. Can you maybe say more about that? Why do you think that is, Carrie? Why are people willing to do that, do you think?
Well, I feel like one, people like being asked for advice, and people like talking, and people like sharing and showing up and helping. I know, for example, there's members who I've like got to know because like they're part of the membership and we're part of this like online family together. And so they've asked me like, will I go into their memberships and like speak? And I will do it. Like it's not huge memberships. Like I spoke at one and it was like I think there was maybe 6 people in the group, and I spent an hour of my time talking to these 6 people because I wanted to help out and I wanted to show up and be there. She didn't pay me anything. I just did it as a favor. I just did it because I wanted to. And so I remember when I was starting FBA and it wasn't anyone to anyone, I would reach out to really big name people and ask if I could, interview them and get them involved in what I was doing. And I can't remember a time where someone said no. Like people more often than not say yes. Um, and as well, like as the membership grows, like now ours has grown, it's a good opportunity for people to promote themselves, and it's now a platform in itself to someone see, like I know a lot of our experts, they get a lot of clients from doing a masterclass.
100%. I remember when I was doing my book launch a year ago, and Macmillan, my publisher, said, you know what? You don't have to go on a book tour. This is before COVID, where you actually could have done it. They're like, it's better for you to just do what you do online, like whether you're popping into someone's group. And I have been asked to speak in so many people's memberships and things like that. And not only do I not ask to be paid, I don't promote anything. I'm not even worried about it. Like I don't say, oh, I have a program. Oh, I have a podcast. I don't say anything. I just give. And it's so fun. I enjoy it. Sometimes I actually get a lot, not only do I get a lot out of doing it, but sometimes I'll say, can I have the recording of this? And I'll use a piece of it for content for like my social or something. And I find that like great stuff gets shared, and that's an extra plus. But I think that I want people to hear this. I want you guys to hear this, that you are literally sitting in front of this incredible Pandora's box where you can gather people together. You could start the way Carrie did, $25 a month, and you can bring in other people and put the spotlight on them. Like I'm doing right now. Like this is the easiest thing in the world. I'm just drinking iced coffee and talking to you and asking you questions, and you're brilliant. And I get to be a part of it by bringing you in. This could be what the membership looks like for you guys. And it can be around any topic. So it's really, really exciting. Carrie, go ahead.
When I started out as well, though, I literally, I remember the first time I asked for someone to collaborate in a loose sense was I was doing this money bundle. So it was all about like money. And so I looked at like, who are some really great money experts? And I reached out and I just said, what are some of your top tips? So I created like this workbook, but then I incorporated all their tips. And I think I asked like 3 different experts. So I wasn't saying, can you create something for me? Or can I come and interview you and it be like an hour? I started off really small and then just built my confidence up that way, and also like connections and all that kind of stuff up. So it doesn't have to be like now when people experts create masterclasses, it is a full on really, but yeah, it did not start that way whatsoever.
It's so fantastic. As we are signing off here, what do you feel in your heart at the end of the day is if you had to just choose in this moment, like what is the most important piece that has helped you find this success? What do you think it is? You could say something tactical, you could say something inner game, but like what do you land on when I ask you that question? If you could talk to your younger self, like what advice, like what would you say matters most?
Honestly, just show up and be of service. Like, as entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call yourself, like, we are here to serve. And like, for me, when I recognized that and that the penny dropped on that properly, it changed everything. Because I remember in 2008 doing this little challenge for myself called Mission to Make a Million. I was like, how can I make a million in a year? And I failed miserably because it was all about me figuring out how I could make a million. And then in 2011, I did a mission success challenge, and it wasn't about like what could I get, it was about what can I give. And like it was also about like what is my dream life and how can I get more intentional. But when I switched into what can I give, it changed everything, because then I was looking for ways to show up and be of value, be of service. And it wasn't about I wasn't even doing it to try and like be an expert, and or any, I was just, how can I be helpful? And even just having that attitude of like, just how can I make people's days better? And just also for it being not just a business thing, but a complete lifestyle change. Like, if I meet someone in a coffee shop or I speak to someone like in over the counter, like, how can I brighten their day? And it's not that you always have to be going around like trying to brighten people's days, but it's just an attitude and a philosophy and a way of life, like showing up to be of service, to be an amazing, to try and be the best, the kindest, the loveliest human being you can be. And that literally did change my life. And I really do think that it led to, I think it's really a big reason for why I've managed to create so much success.
I
And
love
because
it.
so many people are like, I don't know what to give away for free. I don't want to give too much away for free. I'm like, you can't ever give anything too much away for free. Like, you don't be afraid to give, and to, I feel like giving is the way to receive. So yeah.
How much do you love Carrie?
Oh,
Right?
you're so sweet.
I mean, you're so special. You're the real deal. And this was so valuable. She's the best. Um, Give back to her, take a screenshot of her, and then tag her on your Instagram. And you could tag me too, and I'll share it. And just maybe tag her and say one thing that you got from today. Carrie, just say hello so that people can tag you.
Hello. So awkward. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun, and I really hope that you found it helpful. And I just think, yeah, it just little, like, we can just little steps, just, and it doesn't even, like you always say, it can be messy, it can be scrappy. I think it's a word you always use. Like, I just taking little steps, and like we can all create so much success. It's amazing, and it blows me away what's possible, really. But it's every single one of us can do this, and it doesn't have to be fancy. And I also take really a lot of what's the word, I like the fact that I am pretty messy. I'm pretty overwhelmed a lot of the time. I am a bit chaotic and a bit all over the place, but you can still create wild amounts of success. Like, and be so imperfect. And I love that. And it makes me feel like, yeah, excited that you don't have to have it all figured out. No one has it figured out, really, do they? So anyway, thank you for having
They
me. It's
don't.
been lovely to chat with you all.
You are lovely. You're the best. And you absolutely fulfill that intention. You do treat every person like we are your best friends because you're so, like I said, down to earth, vulnerable, real, genuine, kind. And I think that was just loaded with so many tactical ideas, but also just so much heart and so much big picture. And you left us in this like beautiful place of possibility. So, so grateful to you. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for coming in today. And this is just the best.